How's it going, guys, and welcome back to my basement. This subject today, we're going to be talking about shoulders. So the shoulders are meant to be mobile. They are the most mobile joint in our whole body. They can move forward as such into flexion, down into extension, to the sides into abduction, adduction. We can even have our shoulders internally rotate and externally rotate. So all that movement is very exciting because it can grant us freedom of movement, freedom of expressing ourselves in all of these different poses that we could do during our game. But more movements will mean more risks of injuries. So the more a joint can move, the more that it can go out of place. And the shoulder joint is meant to be mobile but strong in all those ranges of motion, meaning that I want to be able to reach, but I want to be able to get there on my own, not having someone push there. There's a difference between mobility and flexibility. Flexibility is the passive act of having someone stretch you into a position, whatever joint that might be, in this case the shoulder. And active stretch or mobility is using your muscles to go into that area. So for example, if you have mobility that just allows you to go about here, let's say 160 degrees into flexion, but a friend of yours can push you a little bit more to get 180, well, the difference of 20 degrees is the risk that you have of injuring yourself. So this is important to understand because that gap, you need to reduce it by your own capability of going into that motion. So it's really important to have mobility, which is strength in that range of motion. All right, so we have different planes of movements with the shoulder. Let's talk a little bit about the bananera. So the bananera movement here, we have our little friend here that can reach here, no worries, at 180 degrees. That means that once flopped upside down, his shoulder mobility here will allow him to stay here. Now, obviously the bananera is not just about shoulder mobility. There's a lot of core control, lumbar stability, hip stability, and all that. However, for this video today, we are interested in our shoulder mobility related to that particular movement. Let's say that I have another friend here that can only go up to 160 degrees here. Now we can see that his lumbar is nice and neutral, stable here. He's not overextending. Well, that poor guy, when doing an AU or trying to go into bananera, he can't really get there because if we flip-flop this angle to there, it's pretty much the same thing, right? So in this particular case, the shoulder mobility of our second player won't allow him to go into that full flexion of shoulder to stabilize and hold that position. Again, we'll need a lot of work here, but that's not what we're talking about today. What I'm interested in, the second player can potentially put himself at risk if he forces himself to go into that. So when we want to work mobility, don't go right away into these complex movements. And this is why. Let's go back to this example of me stuck in 160. If I want to reach completely over my head, I can do so by doing this. But the problem is I still have 180 degrees here, and my rib cage is now disassociated with my hips, meaning that my lumbar got me into extension. So my lack of shoulder mobility could actually cause me back pain. If I go upside down in this position here with this restricted mobility, I can get all of that pressure into my lower back, and imagine my legs above me. They could add more pressure with the leverage of the legs a little bit further. all into that one spot, which is going to be my lumbar, and we know that we don't want stress over there. So let's work our shoulder mobility. Our shoulder mobility, like other areas where we want to work, we want to be able to relax it as much as possible. We will be talking more about the foam rolling, different foam rolling techniques, but the muscles around the shoulders will have different groups that we're going to target in different ways. And here what we want is, we want to relax as much as possible. So this is where our breathing comes in. I'm going to place myself, starting off with my lat muscle, and just placing it here on my little foam roller here. So I'm on the ground, I can go up and down, or even relax side to side here. Breathe, and essentially what I'm doing is I'm massaging my lat that is constricting perhaps my mobility. So relaxing the lat as much as possible. Breathing as well. Another thing that can help me is thoracic mobility. So if I'm always stuck into flexion, I can go here, make sure I'm in neutral. I can cross my arms or just place them here and try to hinge my shoulders back without compromising my core here. My rib cage is going to be stuck to my pelvic bone, extending only my thoracic area. So by working a little bit of those two areas, I can potentially, hopefully, gain a little bit of mobility, and with stability work of the core, I can get into a better position for my bananeras, for my aus, and all the different versions of aus. So we see that mobility of the shoulder is not just to reach and to have better, flashier escapes or acrobatic movements. It's actually going to help us a lot to increase our athleticism in capoeira. I hope this helped. There's a lot more on shoulder mobility that's going to be coming along, but this is just the start, as all of the videos. If you have any questions, comments, let me know, and I will make videos on any suggestions that you guys make. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next show.